things that you should have in place, just some basic legal documents. And a lot of times people wait until it's too late. So I thought maybe we'd talk about power of attorneys today. And one of the things that you need to know is that you might want to have one, your spouse might need to have one, and then certainly if you have parents that are getting older, they're in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, you need to have a power of attorney in place.
Now explain what power of attorney is for those people that may have heard the term but don't understand what it is.
Right, so we actually have 3 different documents I wanted to talk about today. So the first one is a power of attorney for financial decisions. And so for instance, if you and I were married and I wanted to make sure that I had a power of attorney so that maybe you're not on some of my accounts and something happens to me, I'm in a car accident and I can't write checks or something like that, that you would be able to, at that point, if I'm declared to be either incompetent or a doctor says, hey, Kim can't make decisions right now, you can step into it. Now, one of the things people don't think about, I own a law business. And so what happens if something happens to me? I mean, who's going to come in and write checks for my law business? I mean, who's going to come in? There you go, you're going to volunteer?
Okay,
yeah, me. And if I had a power of attorney and I said, hey, lose the person I trust to do this. But if you think about it, if you've got parents, if you've got siblings, anybody that, or you're running, like I said, you're running a business, but especially it comes up with elderly parents. Who's going to pay the rent? Who's going to be able to take care of that checking account?
Sure.
And what people are concerned about, what I hear about all the time, well, if I fill this out, then my son or my daughter can go right to the bank and get my money. And that's not the case. The power of attorney specifically says it only comes into effect if a doctor says that you're unable to make these decisions. And unfortunately, what we do is we get a lot of calls from people, hey, mom's in the hospital, or mom's just been declared to have Alzheimer's and she really is confused. Can we get a power of attorney? That's usually too late.
I was going to say, what happens if you don't have a power of attorney? Who does that power go to?
Right, then it becomes very expensive and you usually have to go to court and set up a conservative and have somebody appointed, and that can cost you thousands of dollars.
Now,
and
what does the first one cost?
About, a couple $100,
Really?
$300, $400.
To get that set up before.
To get it set up, yes, exactly. So it's super easy, and so we just recommend when people come in to talk to us about wills, we recommend that they get one of those.
Okay.
And can that change at all throughout? I might think about it now in my 30s, but it might change when I get into my 50s.
Exactly, yes. I mean, you can tear it up, we can amend it. I mean, there's all sorts of things. And typically we ask you, who's your first choice and who's your second choice? Then the same thing, a power of attorney for healthcare decisions. So what happens if I'm in a coma and let's say I'm not married, and who do I want to make decisions? I have 2 children. Maybe I feel very comfortable with both of my children making those decisions. Maybe I want my best friend to make those decisions. So
it does not have to be a relative.
It doesn't have to be a relative. In fact, I set it up a lot of times where somebody says, I don't want my husband to make the decision. Can I have my best friend, because my husband gets too emotional? I'd rather have my best friend look at the situation and say, yes, we're okay with unhooking her, or yes, we're okay with please go do the surgery. Now that's different from a healthcare directive, or what we call a living will. And what's nice about the living will or the healthcare directive is that documents your wishes. So right now it's a document that you're going to fill out that's going to tell your loved ones or your spouse, hey, if I'm brain dead, here's what I want you to do.
Right.
If I'm on a feeding tube and there's no hope I'm going to recover, here's what I want you to do. If I have a situation where I've been in a coma for this long, here's what I want you to do. And the nice thing about that is it gets rid of all the guilt and all of the angst.
Because that seems to be the biggest hang-up for a lot of folks, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's precedent over power of health decisions.
Yes, exactly. And so what we typically do is we recommend that people get all 3. And so if you had a power of attorney to make healthcare decisions for me, and then I had a living will, you are bound by that living will.
Okay,
and
so the living will trump.
Exactly. You're the person that's going to be making the decisions, but you have to follow it. And typically when you go to a hospital, the first thing that the doctors say to you is, do you have a living will? Do you have a power of attorney?
You're right.
Yeah, because they want to know what are your wishes, because likewise, doctors are bound by following.
I didn't realize that's the reason that they're so curious.
Yes, they're curious about them. And all of those things, I mean, each of those documents cost a couple $100. Most law firms, including mine, will give you a discount if you say, hey, I want all 3.
The group group discount?
Yeah,
I was
the
just
group
going to ask
discount.
because
The bundle, you're bundling.
You're bundling.
You've
you bundle.
broken it up, but you can handle all three at once.
Yeah, you can handle all three. It doesn't take very long at all. Usually, an hour or two.
Okay, so the first one would be the power of attorney.
Yes,
Okay.
for financial decisions.
For financial decisions.
Yes.
The second one would be
The power of attorney for healthcare.
for health decisions.
Yes.
Those are two separate deals.
Two separate deals.
And then the
and then
living will.
the living will.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And so we just recommend all of those. Another thing, if you haven't drawn up your will, you might want to think about that. I mean, it's January. Now's the time to get all those housekeeping things done.
Well, if you're going to be in there taking care of that, you might as well take care of the will at the same
Yeah,
time.
and the will is super easy. I mean, our law firm, like other law firms, we have a little questionnaire you fill out. We can draw it up. Typically, we can get a will done within a couple of days pretty easily. And again, a simple will at our law firm starts at $400.
All right.
So,
and think about all the hassle that it will avoid.
exactly. And so it's easy. It's not expensive. People are always, oh, I don't have $1,000 or I don't have $2,000, and it's not that expensive.
And like you said, if you are in the hospital for an emergency situation, they are there to help, but that's not the time you want to be thinking about those.
Right.
Pieces
And
of paper, documents.
we just recently had a family, have us go meet with their mother, and after asking her some basic questions, we quickly realized she didn't know who the president was, she didn't know what day it was, so we couldn't draft it up. It was too late. They waited too long.
Now, when you get all these documents drawn up, is it the responsibility of the person that has you draw the documents up to keep those in a secure place, or do you guys keep records of it too?
We keep records, and what we typically do is we tell people, okay, put a copy in a safe, and then whomever you've designated, so if I had designated you, I would keep a copy, I would give you a copy, and then your lawyer keeps a copy as well.
Okay.
So
There you go.
that way we can always find them.
Perfect. All right. Now, people want to get a hold of you to take care of some of these things. First thing in 2017, what's the easiest way?
Yeah, you can give us a call at 279-2000 or 515-INJURED.
All right, there's the number right there on the screen. Real easy to remember that, and just go visit Kim BAER and the rest of the gang over at BAER Law Office. Great job. Wonderful. Happy New Year once again.
Happy New Year to you guys
Important
too.
things to think about.
Yeah.
We'll be right back, folks. When we come back, it's totally serious news time. And in case you haven't seen what happened to the Hollywood sign, we're going to show you what happened in real time and then speed it up a little bit too. That's coming up next.